Continuing our popular Ireland on the Fly Masterclass series, this July we're delighted to be joined by Peter Driver of Piscari-Fly, who will be giving a masterclass on the dry dropper technique for river brown trout.
At the height of the summer, there's no better way to target river trout than with the deadly combination of dry fly and nymph underneath. Whether they're taking on top or subsurface, Peter Driver will be giving invaluable tips and advice.
For river trout anglers, this will be a must-see webinar on Thursday, the 25th of July.
Tickets cost €10 and go to www.irelandonthefly.com/masterclass to register today. Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. Stevie Munn is a well-known name in Irish and UK fly fishing circles as someone who has worked in the tackle trade, guided, instructed, and of course began the very successful Irish Fly Fair first in Galway and which has recently moved to Enniskillen. And Stevie is also a fanatical fly fisherman who will cast a line for salmon, sea trout and brown trout, especially the beloved dollaghan from Lough Neagh, which have included 20-pounders in the past. Growing up in Belfast at the height of the Troubles, Stevie tells us why fly fishing in the nearby countryside was such an important escape for him and for so many in the city. And it's little wonder that Belfast has such a sizeable fly angling community to this day. But before we hear from Stevie, Tom, a bit of competition news.
Yeah, good man, Dara. Yeah, a few things happening fast and furious, I suppose, in the competition world. First off, in the Four Nations River Championship that was just held on the River Tees in England, great news. Ireland came out on top and won gold.
Fantastic.
And Mark Stone won the individual brown bowl. So that's a fantastic result. Like to go abroad to the River Tees in England and to get that result, that's absolutely brilliant. Fair play to the guys. That's really good. And then as well, now as I said, we're pre-recording this to you, the guys who all of you are listening, and just at the moment, after the first day of the World Championships, just see it there. It's just come through now. Ireland are lying second overall after day one. Absolutely brilliant. Great start to it. We know a lot of the lads on the team, and actually one of the lads on the team is Sean Dempsey, who we had on there last autumn.
Yes.
So, like, fair play to them. It's great. Like, we'll keep you updated as it goes on from next week and everything. Just fingers crossed that the rest of the week goes well for them. And hopefully when they're back, we'll get to chat to one of them and see how the week went. But great start nonetheless.
Yeah, and hopefully, a good start. The momentum is going well, so hopefully they can keep it going for the rest of the week for the Irish fly team. So fingers crossed for them there. And of course, we spoke to Dec Conlon last year, and we got great insights from Dec. So we're hoping to speak to one of the lads from the team next week. It's been held in France this year, I believe, down by the Pyrenees. So we'll find out how that went.
Looks gorgeous. I looked at some of the pictures coming through from the guys and their practice days and other teams as well. Looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, but look, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. So how's the fishing been, Tom?
Quiet for me at the moment. I'm in that sort of lull at the moment after the mayfly. No, I don't bother too much with the Canis. I've been out a couple of times in it. It's nothing spectacular. Weather hasn't really helped it. Look, getting a few things done. You're starting to pick up again now next week, getting out. There's still mayfly in spots here, which is amazing. Yeah. And even last day I was out, what day is today? Well, I was out the end of last week with a couple of fish, one nice fish, and covered on a dry mayfly. Had taken a mayfly, covered it with a dry mayfly, and I took. So there you go. And rose quite a few others. So look, still a bit of action. But we normally have the second hatch of mayfly. But like at the moment, we're still having a continuous hatch of mayfly. So, I don't know whether to call it a second hatch or not.
So this is the kind of summer doldrums for the lakes, is it?
Yeah, I always find for daytime fishing, the last 2 weeks of June on carb, you could take it or leave it. It's not up to much. Early July can be a bit hit and miss, but once you're into after the first week in July, you can get really good fishing again. Very weather dependable, but then look, anytime we're talking about any loch fishing, and we say the same funny when we're chatting to Stevie later on, and Stevie's talking about how he compares it, he likes his loch fishing, where he calls it really difficult, and it's true, but it's really difficult a lot of the times because it's so weather dependent. Like if I get a heat wave in July, That's me absolutely flummoxed. Completely flummoxed. And you can get it. But last July we got wind and rain.
Yeah, you never know. Well, maybe we got the wind and rain earlier this year, like the way it's been.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Jesus, no. Don't say that to me. No,
It feels it's getting that intense
God.
heat.
Don't.
It's a bit like
Anyway, I pull the plug if it's a heat wave.
But you know what? It's just about I keep saying this. It's about the windows, the opportunities. Remember, I told you when I was out mullet fishing with Jason down in Dungarvan.
Yep.
Went down and it was like blowing a gale the next day. It was just the next day. Flat calm.
Yeah.
Jason sent me a picture. Flat calm. Fish everywhere.
I think you're kind of doomed with mullet.
I'm just doomed full stuff.
I know with mullet. No, come on now. You've had a nice start of the salmon season.
True.
And as I said,
100%.
back in the salmon season now. Put away the double handler.
That's it. I'm done.
Put it back in the tube. Put it under the table. But your mullet. I think next time you go mullet fishing, shoot an albatross for good luck.
Bring the salmon rod. I might fool them into thinking I'm going salmon fishing.
But you're not actually mullet fishing. It'll come good.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm one of those though. The more it messes up, the more I'm determined to bloody get those shackers. And especially because Jason keeps sending me the pictures of these monsters mullets. Like
that's a teaser.
So.
Do you know what you do? The next time you go mullet fishing, listen to Sean O'Loughlin's podcast.
Yes, that's what I should do. Get the positive.
That podcast is going to become a remedy for everything.
But look, let's get back to this week's guest anyway, Stevie Munn. And I first asked Stevie about his involvement in setting up the Irish Fly Fair.
I bought the name Irish Fly Fair a long time ago. When I was working at the British Fly Fair and the Dutch Fly Fair, and then I was wondering why Ireland doesn't have a fly fair. So I bought the name Irish Fly Fair and I sat on it for ages. And then I think it was David Dinsmore from the Irish Angler days. I used to write in that pretty regular. And he said to me, why don't you talk to Hugh Boner, Media, who was running at that time the Dublin show. I spoke to them and they helped me put it together because I had no money to back it. So they helped me put it together, and it was them that actually chose Galway. And they worked with me for 2 years at it, and then they moved on. And in good terms we moved on. Like they gave me a good start. I just don't think we had enough money for them, and that's the truth. But then it grew and built, and it was great in Galway for many years. We'd done 10 years there. It was really, really good. Unfortunately, it became very difficult to run the fly fair because of Brexit, basically. And that's why it went. That's why it went into the north. You know, it was easier for traders just to come.
Yeah. The thing there is, Stevie, on account of Brexit, any trader that comes from, let's say, over from England, they come to the south. They have to declare all their goods, isn't it, or something like that?
Of course. That was it, and there was a lot of confusion around that time too, and people didn't know what was happening because and there's still a bit of confusion around the town. To be fair, it certainly was a bit of a mess for this. In my opinion, it's a bit. I know it's a contentious issue up here, but it was in my opinion, it was very, very. It wasn't good for me anyway. It wasn't good for me.
Yeah. It
wasn't good for the show. It wasn't good for the show.
We'll take a recording of that, in my opinion, and we'll put it before everything you say.
In an ideal world, would you have left it in Galway, Stevie?
I may have done in an ideal world, yes, because it was popular there. Although Galway had its ups and downs, and after COVID, the prices went through the roof. They wanted a deposit, and because I hadn't made any money in 2 years, I hadn't got any deposit to give them. So and because I was finding it more difficult to run there, it was just like I wasn't getting any support. In my mind, it wasn't. So it had its pluses and it had its minuses, definitely. Unfortunately, I would have loved a bigger venue in Galway. And car parking was always a contentious issue in Galway because you used to have to pay for the car park space, and so it was always hard. I always had, but every venue has its pluses and minuses. don't think you'll get a perfect venue anywhere, maybe.
Yeah, so like you're kind of starting to build again then in Enniskillen, is it?
Aye, but we did it last year. So that was the sort of comeback. We did it last year. We wanted a nice looking venue beside water, so we got another nice venue beside water. We didn't want to like Galway Bay is a beautiful place, and we didn't want to go like in a sports hall, for instance, and it wouldn't have looked the same. And I think part of the vibe with it, with our fly for with the Irish fly for is people have a bit of a party at it. You know, other fly fairs are everybody's a bit disjointed after it. They're all staying in different places. Ours, a lot of people just stay on site, and because it's in a nice place and it's easy, and they can bring their family if they want because it's a hotel spa. Like so I think that's part of it. You know, people like just enjoying themselves. Like I have to turn away so many fly tyres from all over the world. Like I think last year I turned down about 200 fly tyres. So
Wow.
and we had 70 fly tyres 10, so there's a lot of tyres at it. It's very, very popular with the fly tyre. It is.
And it's a good time of year. Good time of year as well, I think, isn't it? It's kind of
Aye, it is. The season's over.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it during the fishing season, you know.
Yeah.
So the season's over, and it's it's something to look forward to after the season's over, I think, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do it during the fishing season.
Speaking of the fishing season, Stevie, like you're full time involved in fly fishing.
I've been working on fly fishing since I was 27. So I'm 58 now. So I've been working on fly fishing a long time in different ways. You know, in different ways. You can't work in it in just one certain way. I don't think in this island, but you have to do a lot of different things. So I've done a lot of different things within fly fishing. You know, I've hosted trips in different countries, and I've taught people how to cast, and I've guided. I've done a lot of things in fly fishing. So tackle. I've worked for a lot of companies. That's where I met Tom, working for one of the companies we used to work for. So I've done a lot in the fly fishing industry. Just been in it a long time, I think. Now.
And
You know?
in 30 years, like 30 years ago, like did you consciously at the time decide at 27, I want to go, this is what I want this to be?
No, it
or
was
you
just a circumstance.
Yeah.
It was just a circumstance. It was just, I was tying flies at a wee country fair. This is when I was like 27 or 26. And this Englishman called Dave Havers came over to me, and he was looking at the flies, and he says, do you want to come to Doan Palace in Scotland, tie flies on my stand and help me put the marquee up and stuff like that? And I did. I went over, and Dave paid me, and he got really busy, and he says, can you go and help sell some fly rods? So I was taking out fly rods, and then I started casting fly rods with people, and he says, no more fly tying working for me. So I worked for him for a good while, and he gave me a percentage of his sales and paid me well, Dave, back in the day. He was a very interesting guy, Dave Havers. Worked with him a long time. He's doing a business called Tackle Bargains, and we worked for Mitchell's at Pitlochry in Scotland. And it was good times then, because we were travelling up and down England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and he was in a fishing club called the Prince Albert, which I always thought was something else. But they have it all over England, Scotland, Wales. So we used to fish in between the shows and do like about 40 shows a year, selling tackle out of the back of a van back in the day. This was the 90s, like. So I had good times with him, and then I met a guy called Alan Brown, Lennox Rods. Dave stopped doing it because the internet business got his internet. He was at the very early internet days. I was actually about the third or fourth people putting tackle on eBay. Now it's like millions, you know. So this is the early days, like. And then I went to Lennox Fly Rods for a while. That was an old guy called Alan Brown. He died. He used to build fly rods for Bruce and Walker. And Dave introduced me to him, and I used to sell his fly rods over at all the country shows. And then I just fell into it. I didn't plan anything. I just fell into everything. Strangely, you know. I've worked with a lot of companies.
How you mentioned that, Steve. I mean, that was classic pre-internet days of going around shows, and that's where guys got bargains. You know, there was you couldn't troll the web for a bargain. That's what you did. You went to the shows.
You went to the shows. The shows were massive in them days, Tom. And I remember going to the CLA Game Fair in England the first time with Dave Havers in a van and just being amazed. But Anglers Row in them days was a lot bigger. You had 3 or 4 rows of Anglers Rows. And I'm just being amazed at the size of it. There was 150,000 people at them. And it was just amazing at the size of them. And that went on for about I think I done about 20 odd CLAs. I've done a few with you. I've done a few first with you.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
party
but
holiday. Yeah,
yeah, in the hardy days. But
yeah.
yeah, they were good fun. But they got smaller. They got smaller, and then I think the fly fishing side was that the fly fairs have sort of taken over the fishing side of the game for us. I think because you've got the Dutch fly fair, the Italian fly fair, the British fly fair, our fly fair. And we used to just go to shows like open game fair type shows back in the day before the fly fairs really started. It was Odd Sweert started the fly fairs, a Dutch guy. He was the first, and then everybody followed. But it was good times. I loved the game fairs. Like we used to have great fun, as you know.
Good crack.
They were good crack. You would make some money, but you would spend it just as much as you made it.
Yeah, you wouldn't get a lot of sleep either, Stevie.
There was very little sleep at times, yes, but we were younger. We didn't need as much sleep in them days.
No, God, no.
I wasn't in
Yeah.
the Zimmer frame.
Yeah.
So it was the social thing was as important, doesn't it? Like you said.
Oh, it was. You met a lot of people, and you met a lot of characters, and you met a lot of people from different walks of life. From all walks of life, and that's one of the things in fly fishing. I suppose we meet people in all different walks of life. I think that's very interesting. You meet a lot of interesting people. I know I really did meet a lot of interesting people when I was doing some of the guiding in different countries and when I was doing the game fairs and stuff in England and Scotland and stuff. It was great times. I loved the days before the internet.
Yeah, it was good because that's what I was going to say to you. Because obviously the internet has taken away a big chunk of that. Because like I said, people go on eBay, go wherever, buy their tackle, whatever they want. And it's interesting now that the fly fairs now are now taking over the social aspect because it's the fly time, the fly dress, and people want to see that.
Yes.
And is that where the focus now is? That's where you're kind of finding, okay, this is why people are coming to these fairs now just to look at these fly tires.
I don't know. I don't know. Like the fly fairs. The fly fair's a funny thing. It built and it grew and grew and grew and grew. I don't know. I think just fly tires. A lot of fly fishermen, as you know, are fly tires also. And you can't really buy good materials without touching them,
Yep.
So
Yep.
like if you're lifting a cape, you want to look at it before you buy it, especially if it's going to be a genetic cape or expensive cape maybe. So and that's the good thing about the fly fairs or trade shows or shops that are still going.
Yeah.
You can go and feel, you can feel the touch and look at them and look at the quality of the materials, and I think that's why the fly fair still gets a good following, because if you bring in enough good trade stands from all around, as many good trade stands as you can, people want to go because they want to stock up for their fly time and they want to look at the materials before they buy them on eBay maybe, or buy them off something else. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that because I still sell feathers. Sometimes.
Scrap that.
On eBay.
You're absolutely. No, but you're right, Stevie. And I know it as a punter because I actually have gone to your fair a couple of times as a punter. And I've actually made up a list. I would make up a list before and what I want to see, and I get around and I have a look, and it's exactly what you say. You pick it up. You feel it. You look at the colour. You might actually take it from one stand to the other stand to compare the colour and go, no, that's the colour I want. And you can't do that on the internet.
No, you can't do that on the internet, Tom. And well, you know yourself. Us guys from this island have a lot of thing about colour. Especially a lot anglers. So it has to be the right golden olive sometimes.
Yeah, not just the loch anglers, but particularly with the loch anglers. Yeah.
Yes, particularly with the loch anglers, but not just with the loch anglers. But yes, goddamn prickly acid. That's what I say.
How effective. I mean, I have a classic one going into a shop once, and there's one of the lads in the shop, and he's a load of different colour capes. And his classic case is a guy comes in one day, and it was a lovely shade of golden olive, and the punter picks it up and he goes, "Jeez," he goes, "that's beautiful. That is absolutely gorgeous. Excellent. Jesus, that's lovely. You wouldn't have it in a shade lighter, would you?"
That's us.
Yeah, that's it.
How many colours of claret can you get?
Not enough. I'm here at my fly time desk. I won't go through them. Yeah, you really can't. But hey, Stevie, isn't it great? Because that's that's one of the reasons for the success of the fair.
Of course, that is definitely. I think it definitely is. There's a lot of guys I was very surprised when I moved in. Well, I moved in the Fermanagh for a reason. I didn't want to be too far away from the south. I didn't, because I always had good support from the south, and I was amazed how many people did come from the south. And how far. Like, people are coming from Cork.
Yeah, they were, and they were
You
there.
know,
They
you
were there
know.
at the door. They were there when the doors opened on the Saturday.
There was great.
Yeah.
There was a great queue. It was a great vibe.
Mm.
I wish the thing cost cheaper money. But I have to beat the hotel owners down a bit.
So, Stevie, tell us, where did it all begin then? Take us back then in terms of where you grew up, how you got into the fishing side, and were you as obsessed as a kid then with it?
I'm from Belfast, as you can probably tell by my horrible accent. But
You're not. Are you? Oh,
I am, Tom. From Belfast. And I didn't think you would even speak to me, but I am. And my mother always said, she's still living, God love her, and she's nearly 98, and she always says to me, remember, son, you can't pick where you're born. I would have maybe chose the Cat's Hills or somewhere, but instead of North Belfast in 1965, But I was born in Belfast, and my father was born in Belfast, and he was a working class man, but he was really into his fly fishing. And when I was very, very young, he started taking me fishing at a very, very early age. I'm not sure what time, but I was very, very young. I started off with drowning a worm. I was fishing a worm, and then he wouldn't let me fly fish for a long time without a lot of practice. And he used to put a bucket on in a hockey pitch. It was out the back of our school, or out the back of my house. There was a school out the back of my house. I had hockey and tennis pitches, and he used to put the bucket on the hockey pitch, and I used to cast in the bucket. I reckon from about 6 or 7, he was getting me to do that. And then when I would get it on the bucket all the time, I could go fly fishing with him. And I fly fished with him a lot, like nearly every Saturday and nearly every Sunday. That man fly fished.
Wow. Where in Belfast would you be fishing?
And you see, Belfast is close to, like, every part of Ireland's close to a bit of water, and Belfast has got a lot of rivers. Not Belfast, but County Antrim, County Down, all the counties in it. You've got the Lagan. There's good fishing in the Lagan. There's still good fishing in the Lagan. Further up the Lagan, of course, not where it's industrialised. And the 6 Mile water in County Antrim, I grew up on it as a kid. That was sort of like my local. But we used to go to Ballinderry a lot, in County Tyrone. I fished that a lot. I fished most of the north. Like, it's very, very easy to get to, So like, they're not like you could pick 3 rivers in a day if you wanted, really, The Main, the Ballinderry, the Meola, all the Lough Neagh system, basically, all the Lough Neagh system rivers. So all them dollaghan, salmon, trout rivers, we fished all of them, basically. And then a wee bit of loch fishing too on Melvin and Lough Neagh now and again. And we would travel down to the south and fish the Moy and Corrib now and again. And we travelled all over. My dad never had a car or a motorbike. He went everywhere in the bus or hitched in them days, trains.
No.
He did, and he went fishing a lot.
There's a great picture I've seen on one of your on Facebook, Stevie. Don't know if you've seen it there, but it's a great picture. It's yourself and your dad getting ready. You're both wearing their motorcycle helmets. It's your bike, and the rods are strapped around the back, and you're just about to get on the motorbike, Perry, with the helmets to go fishing. I just think it's a brilliant photo, Stevie.
I went fishing on them. I didn't drive a car, Tom, until I was well into my 30s. I rode motorcycles from I was 16. I still love my motorcycles, but I took my dad. I went fishing with my dad first of all on the bus, and then when I became a teenager, I got into, I was working at 16, but and when I became a teenager, I bought a motorcycle, and then I took my dad fishing on the back of my bike all the time, and them days you had a 2-piece fly rod. There was no 3 or 4-piece, or so you had this big long fly rod over your back. I remember one time I was racing down. My dad wasn't on the back this day, but I remember one time I came back from work, and I was rushing to get to the river. I wanted to go to the river because I knew it was fishing half decent, and there was a few fish about her. And I got on the back, and I think that time I had a Yamaha LC 250 or something, and that's a really quick bike. two-stroke thing. And I remember hammering up a road, and there was a guy, I passed a guy in a really fast sports car, and I was hammering up a road, and then I looked on the wing mirror, and he was flashing his lights, and I thought he wanted a race, so I gave her some, and then he stopped. I remember him coming behind me, and then he stopped the thing, and he handed me the fly rod. It fell off my back. And he'd been chasing me for miles. I thought he was just wanting to race. He was trying to give me my fly rod back. It blew off my back. I didn't even know the rod was gone. But I used to fish a lot on the motorbike. You can park a motorbike in a lot of places too, but you can't park a car.
You only found that out when you got the car.
That's true. That's true. Aye.
So is your memory then very much growing up, Stevie, was fishing at weekends? Your dad would have brought you out and, kind of...
Very much. My father was really, really into his fly fishing and into his fly time. And that's just how it started. He just brought me fishing all the time when I was a kid. And then, of course, there's a period when you're in your teens, you grow out of it, you're into music, motorcycles, and maybe girls or whatever. You sort of drifted out of it. I never really drifted out of it. I sort of stayed, did less of it maybe in my teenage years and maybe in my early 20s, but I always did it. I was always doing it. I don't remember never not doing it. And I remember, I just don't remember not fishing. I've always fly fished.
And where you grew up, were you, like, you seem to kind of find this, whereas younger kids, they might fish together, but then as you get older, they start dropping away. Were you unusual in that sense, as the older you got, you were the one that still kept at it?
Well, there was a few of my mates that did fly fish, and a few of them still do. In fact, this is we started in the 70s, and there's a great few of the lads that I know around here. Belfast has got an awful lot of fly fishermen, and people think it's a city, but it is a city, but it's a small city surrounded in countryside. And we've an awful lot of fly fishermen, and it's interesting because we're located near Lough Neagh. We've got fly fishermen that are very, very, very adept at say migratory fishing, because we get the runs of dollaghan just like sea trout they are. They come up, we fish for them, and we fish for them very similar to we fish for salmon. So we fish for salmon, dollaghan, and river trout in this area mostly. And there's loads of anglers. There's loads of anglers. When we had the show in Galway, the crowd that came down from Belfast was vast. It's big clubs. There's big clubs all over this part of the world. There's one club, 250 members. There's massive amount of fly fishermen in this part of the world. It's strange. Most of them are game fishermen. You get a few sea anglers and a bit of crossover as well, but it's mostly game fishermen in this part of the world. It's a strange thing, Yeah, but there's a lot of people started when they were young and never stopped it. Yeah. Some of them did drift off, but I don't know too many that drifted off. They sort of stuck at it.
Still doing a bit.
And some of them do. And it's a thing that, like, I know mates that I fly fished with when I was, God, I don't know, like 10, 12 years of age. Adam Crozier, he's still, and they're still fishing. They're still fishing. So yeah. I think if you get the bug, it just never really does leave you, really, And a lot of people use fly fishing for different things. Some people use it as a social aspect. Some people use it to get away from people too, So I use it for both. But I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do, and
yeah, there was obviously a lot of people in Belfast. Did you think pre-internet days when there used to be more shops? Belfast had a huge amount of shops.
We did. We had rankings. We had 2 rankings actually at one time. And we had Braddles and tight lanes and stuff. Loads of them. There was loads of tackle shops around Belfast, and even the wee towns outside Belfast had tackle shops. So it does have a lot of. There's a big island community up here, like there always was, and. There always was. I think when I was young, there was a bit of, as growing up, and when I grew up, that was, the troubles was here, and I think a lot of dads just didn't want them out chucking bricks. You better taking your son up a river, and instead of, it was colourful out here.
I wanted to ask you that, Stevie. Actually, did like, was it a way to escape in many ways what was
Yes,
going on?
of course, it was a way of escape.
Yeah.
But I think well, I've always found fly fishing as a way to escape. I
Yeah.
think it's always been used as a way to escape, and maybe that's why so many people up here do it. you know, that maybe makes more sense. But I've always used fly fishing as an escape. It's always been in my head. I'm getting out of the way. I'm away. You know. And I've always loved rivers, and I've always loved wild places. I've always loved lochs and rivers, and I've always used it as a form of escaping. And I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of people do, up here,
And I suppose also the fact that, like you said, there's so much good fishing around. It's not like you had to travel far from Belfast.
You don't. 15 minutes up the
Yeah.
road. I'm living in the outskirts of Belfast now. When I look out my window, I'm looking down on Belfast. And I have 15 minutes, 10 minutes to 6 Mile, which is a very good river. Produces a lot of dollaghan. It produces a lot of dollaghan because it's a good spawning river, but it also has internationally a bit of a harbour, a bit of a port at the bottom of it, and you get a lot of boats coming out of it, and you get a lot of jet skis coming out of it, and so it's not as easy to put the net. The fishermen don't net the bay as much. That bay doesn't get netted as much. So the dollaghan get a bit of a respite. Although the silverfish in the 6 Mile, the big silverfish I've seen they've went, but it's still good fishing.
What's a silverfish, Stevie?
Well, the dollaghan we found out because we've done Queens. It used to be Tom. Everybody thought there was different strains of dollaghan, me included, because there were scientific papers telling us this. But we've done more surveys. Some of the guys formed a dollaghan trust at one time. It sort of fell apart a wee bit because one of the driving forces behind it, on that new died. But we did a survey with Queen's University, and we realised that all the dollaghan were genetically the same, but there were different colours because of where they were feeding, or just the same as any brown trout, Tom, But so the silverfish were the fish that were traditionally probably feeding over the sandy bottoms. Like yourself when you're fishing in, say, Sheelan, fishing down Bog Bay, and you get a fish down there, and it's like a buttery colour. You get one up in the rocks, it's like a silvery boy. Well, these fish were the same. But in the loch, they were fishing. They were it was where they were feeding. It was a coloration. So we had big silverfish at one time, and I remember fish 7, 6, 7, 8 pounds, 9 pounds sometimes, bigger. We had big silverfish, and the big silverfish have seemed to have gone first. They're not on. I haven't seen a big silverfish in years, and I keep asking all the locals that fish the river, have you seen the big silverfish? And nobody is. So they've been fished out, I think, or that area, something, I don't know. Yourself, there's a lot of pollution and stuff going on with Lough Neagh. It's been on the news lately and stuff, but I certainly the silverfish seem to be gone, and the dollaghan has declined in my own lifetime, and I'm watching it. It's sad to say, but the dollaghan situation needs to be addressed. But it's bad management of the loch, and it's bad management of everything. We've had a lot of problems up here, and people were trying to sort out other things, I think, and for years it's been bad management.
Is that a lot to do with the suspension of Stormont that went on, in the sense of that nobody was managing it, or?
No, just mismanagement there, and like it's years and years and years and years and years of OverNutrification. And that's what it is, that the loch's carrying too much nutrification. In different countries that have buffer zones along rivers, well, our buffer zone isn't close enough, so when you're spraying slurry, it's going, as soon as it gets a rain, it's going straight into the river. So it's over-nutrification. The loch's over-nutrificate badly. People are blaming things like a zebra mussel came into it, but yourself, Tom, zebra mussels and other lochs with healthy trout populations.
Yeah.
It's maybe causing a perfect storm as well up there, because it's clearing the water. We're not saying it's a filter feeder, so it's clearing the water. It's not meant to cleaner, it's clearing it maybe. But and they're saying some like it's down this thing over X, but it's OverNutrification. The bottom line is it's the loch is overnutrified. It's if you it's OverNutrification means basically the word shit.
It's the scientific word for
it. In layman's terms,
that's
yes.
not any finer. A lot of people say overnutrification, but we know what it's overnutrification from. It's overnutrification from effluent. So mostly, but the loch's got a lot of problems.
We were saying there beforehand. You were saying as well, Stevie. They still net it for trout, don't they?
Well, Tom, it's legal to net it for trout. You can buy the same people buy a rod licenses off up here. You can buy your license to net the loch. It's not very expensive. I'm not sure what it is now, but I think it's less than the rod license. So it's legal to net the trout up here and sell them. And they're selling them all around the world. They're selling them down south in Dublin, the fish market. And what gets me is there's no quota. We don't really know what's there. They can have a guesstimate, but there's no quota. The rivers have been deteriorating a bit over the years. There's still good fishing, don't get me wrong. It's not all doom and gloom. But the Lough Neagh rivers and the Lough Neagh, there's no quota on the fish, and it's legal. It's legal to net as many fish as you like, sell them. And to me, that just sounds a wee bit wrong. I know we had an eel fishery in Lough Neagh, which went downhill after years and years and years of fishing. We had a pollen fishery, which went downhill after years and years of fishing. So now they're fishing for the trade. So it's a bit depressing for me as an angler, but it's legal. And there's fishermen been doing it for years and years and years and years, and they say it's the right to do it. And I think they're probably right, it's the right to do it, but I would like to see more regulation, maybe on how many fish you can take or whatever. Or, I know it's not being patrolled. There's one boat on the loch, so you can't. And the loch's 155 square miles. It's the biggest loch in these islands. Like you could put carab in it a couple of times, Tom. And it doesn't have the resources. The government say they don't have the resources to look after it, and blah 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 blah. But it's very frustrating for the people. And last year there was an uprising almost because we were very very warm weather. We had a massive algae bloom.
And it was very visual, Stevie, wasn't it? Like I think that's why
very visual.
Like the TV cameras loved it,
Of course, it looked amazing, of course, from one of them drones, but it was sad too because if people use the loch for different recreations, it's not only fishermen, and it's not only fishermen that fish the loch for a living now. Them guys that fish the loch for a living, it's legal to fish. Although I've said the government need to look at legislation and maybe if it was me, I would buy the nets man out. I would. I would buy them out. I would just say, give us a price, we'll buy yous out, because we've got with the second year of COVID, Tom, there was no nets out in the sea, there was no nets on the loch. The second year of COVID, I was in testing fly rods in loch of the main River Main, and the fishing was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. There was 31 days. I had one or two fish. I'm talking salmon each day. It was phenomenal, and the dollaghan fishing was good too. And that was only because I don't know, maybe for a lot of reasons, but I know in my head there was no nets on the loch or no nets on the sea for 2 years, and it's certainly my fishing season was spectacular.
I did want to ask you, Stevie, though. It sounds like from what you're saying, like say between the eutrophication of Lough Neagh, the angling or the lack of action around the netting, is the angling and environmental lobbies, they're not very strong.
We've got the Ulster Angling Federation up here, but they try to lobby, but they have to change legislation. They have to change law. We had meetings and meetings and meetings with politicians. We've had meetings and meetings and meetings. There was massive meetings, Save the Loch even, in which we had not only the anglers, but we had swimmers and canoeists and surfers and all the people that use the water, all getting united together to try and make changes. we're still trying to make changes, and you know it's like it's like it's difficult to make changes, especially up here because they weren't sitting together for months and months and months. They've only started sitting together again, so
they're playing catch up.
So for you, you could shout as loud as you want, but nobody was listening. People would turn up and say they were listening, but it still has to go through legislation, and the people weren't sitting to pass the legislation. I wouldn't have paid them, but that's just my view. Don't start me.
Fair enough.
If I don't work, I don't get paid, Tom.
Yep, that's true.
If people don't work, if people didn't go to work in Stormont, I wouldn't have paid them, but there you go. I'll probably have a load of politicians in my garden. I put my windows in.
It strikes me, Stevie, though, as well, that, the fishing in Northern Ireland can be so good that it's kind of underappreciated. It kind of flies under the radar. It's
very underappreciated. I think possibly that is to do with the Troubles. We didn't have a tourism industry like South did. People weren't putting it on the map. People were, especially in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s when the Troubles were at its peak. We didn't have a tourist industry really, and then the local anglers didn't really see the tourists that often, so they weren't really not going to say unwelcoming, that's the wrong word, but they weren't used to it. Let's say they weren't used to it. And I'm working for Fish Pal at the minute, and even that at the minute's a wee bit like, how long have to do this, to do what? It's only selling ticket online, that's all it is. But I don't think the anglers up here used it. They're used it their own way, and that is definitely, I think, because we didn't have a tourism industry. Yeah. We've had it since we have been at peace to a certain extent, I think, and we have a far better tourist industry now. But for many, many years, there was no real travelling anglers coming into this part of the world, but for obvious reasons,
But it's but it is I think it is a kind of a mind that can be kind of dug into a bit more in the coming years and developed. Like from what you're saying, it has the potential, doesn't it? Like
there's more and more tourism, and there's more and more people fishing up here, and there is good fishing, but there has been bad management on a lot of rivers, but we still have really, really good fishing. Like even the Mourne for salmon is probably one of the best salmon rivers. The Finn I keep thinking that's on our side. See? that's actually in Donegal. It's still the 9 counties, Tom. But a lot of people forget about that, Tom. I'm not saying. There's great fishing up this. There is great fishing up this part of the world. There is. We have, and not only the Lough Neagh rivers, but the Lough Neagh rivers are all good trout rivers, and they've all been great dollaghan rivers, and some of them still have great dollaghan, and a couple of years ago, you're catching serious fish. We're talking fish anywhere from £2 to £20.
Great fish.
They're serious trout.
Actually, just on that, Stevie, just in case anyone isn't aware, you might just tell us what dollaghan trout are.
Dollaghan's the local name for the Lough Neagh trout. So, you have Sonican and Gillaroo and Cronin in different parts. But dollaghan is I think it's Tom would probably be able to tell me better because I know he speaks Irish. But I was told anyway it's the Old Irish for running fish or running fish or something like that. So the dollaghan, but it's a migratory trout. It's a migratory brown trout, just like the sea trout, it lives in Lough Neagh and feeds in Lough Neagh, and then runs our rivers and spawns our rivers. So it spawns. There's 6 major rivers in the Lough Neagh system, and then there's a lot of tributaries, and it runs all them rivers and spawns, and it can grow really big because there is a lot of food in Lough Neagh, and although the pollution's maybe cutting that down a bit because the black fly this year wasn't as much. We call it the mayfly up here, Tom, but it's a buzzer. It's a chironomid or whatever you call it. But I don't know if I think the pollution was maybe affecting the fly life a wee bit. But the dollaghan's a fish that just lives in the loch, big brown trout, and runs the spawn, and they can grow really, really big.
Close to huge.
Yeah, what size, Stevie?
Oh, I've never had a 20 pounder, but there's guys that have. I know a few guys, a handful of guys that I know have had landed fish at 20. Some of them say, slightly over. Some of them say, so there's 20 odds. I remember seeing a big fish, but it was no black and white picture. It used to hang in Bladdle's shop, and it was a big dollaghan. It was the length of your leg, it was a huge thing. But there could have been a very short man, it could have been. It could have been a man about 4'2",
Vertically challenged.
It could have been a short person and not a big fish, but it looked a huge fish, Tom. My biggest, I reckon, is for around about 12 pound. Around about 12 pound is my biggest. And I've had a couple around 11ish, and I've had a couple around 10 and 9. So it used to be traditionally you would fish for them at night, but the tungsten revolutions changed that a bit. A lot of people can catch them in different methods,
Yeah, it used to be down and across, wasn't it, at night time?
Well, it was just like sea trout fishing, Tom. The bigger fish were caught at night. The bigger fish were always caught at night back in the day. But the tactics have changed, and because of the revolution of tungsten beads, now a lot of the big fish are caught during the day too, because the tungsten beads, almost like people call it nymph fishing. Now I might get through off the program here. But
what do you call it then? Give us your terminology.
Well, it depends what you're fishing for. If you're fishing for a feeding brown trout, I would class it as nymph fishing.
Okay.
But if you're fishing for a migratory trout that's not feeding, I would call it fishing a lure under a float.
Yeah. And it's generally fishing.
I'm not against it either. I'm not against it either, although it does slow up the pool. If you're coming down and you're wanting to do down the cross, and there's 3 people fishing pimps, it slows up the pool. And it became it's a deadly method up here. It became deadly. And it became really deadly up here. Like, there's one river I fish, it's banned, and one river where I fish, it's not banned. And that stopped a lot of the night fishing, because as my father used to say, salmon and trout haven't got hands, they can't hit you. They have to bite you. So if you piss something off, now and again he'll take that nymph lure thing. But it's interesting.
You're not completely sold on it then, are you?
Well, I have done it, don't get me wrong, I have done it. I have done it, but it's just not for me really, because now, I suppose I will get used to it when my arthritis kicks in more, because I'm a very arthritis now. But I do like to sort of be on the move when I'm when I fish rivers. But that's just me, And some people use it for different things. It's like some people fly fish to be social, and some people be on the move. But it's a deadly method. It's deadly method. I mean, it's really deadly, and I'm not knocking it. I think people should be allowed to do it if they wish to do it. I'm not knocking it. Before you learn to fly fish, maybe you could learn to do it or something.
Tell Stevie.
It's a wee bit like buzzer fishing under a bung too, Tom.
Yeah. And what's wrong with that? Although
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
To be honest, actually, I generally put people on the bung who haven't fished before, so I'm kind of with you in a lot of respects. But anyway,
yes.
Come here.
I wish they would call the bung a float, just.
Well, come on, no, it's better. It's a bung.
It's float. But some people, they call it up here a pimp. Some people fish 3 or 4 to keep the spark plug. On. You're gonna get me lynched. There's a lot of people like doing it, and I have no problem with it. I might do it myself soon.
You could be doing it over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I might do it. I might do it myself. I'm not knocking it. And it's very good. It's a very good way, especially if you were teaching someone or guiding someone that maybe couldn't, fly cast very well.
That's what I do with the bung on the buzzers on the lake, actually.
Yeah.
So look, it serves its purpose.
It is a good method. It is a good method. I'm not knocking it. I think it was refined up here, but some people think prawn was banned because. But if you think of the pimp or the prawn, you can always keep it over the lie. So if you know where the fish lays, you're constantly fishing that water. where traditional fly fishermen were fishing the water briefly and then pulling their flies through it again, cast, the recast. So you can stay in a lie with a float pimp.
Pim, bung, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, one of them, bubble float.
Stevie, come here. You
I
know,
don't understand why they've got it attached to the fly rod, Tom. I just don't
well,
understand
look,
that bit.
it works. It works. We'll move on from the pimp, okay? Come here. You fish.
Before you get me killed,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm trying to save you here, Stevie. You keep going back to it. You keep saying I'm not knocking it.
It's a good method. It is a good method.
Come here. You fish shieling every year. How was this year for you?
This year was, it was hard enough. But Sheelan's always hard enough.
Mm.
Sheelan's a loch if you get one or two good fish out of it, and it's got big fish. It's got big fish, and that's what I think brings me back. I've fished Sheelan a long, long time, every year for well over 30 years now, up and up and down. I go with a team of friends, a wee fishing club. We've been going for years, and we used to go to Finney and stay in Mary O'Reilly's, but she's now too old to take guests, so we stayed this time over in Crover, and it was good. But there was a few good fish caught. There's some of the lads and had fish 6, 7, 8 pounds. There was some good fish caught by, but it was tough. It was hard going. I always enjoyed Sheelan. I love Sheelan. I've some great memories of Sheelan. Some great. One of the biggest trout I think I ever hit in my life was out of Sheelan before Rackmela. When I was racked on a fish, we're up around Church Island, and maybe this, but I remember the fish. I do remember this fish called Bob, good angler. He's a fish catcher, like, and we were waiting for the spent. Everybody's waiting on the boats. Everybody's being quiet and all that, and it's getting cold. Bobby says to me, "This isn't going to happen." And he says, "I seen fish feeding down around Bog Bay." And he says, "They're taking buzzers." And I was right. And he says, "We'll go down there." Well, we went down on the edge of the ripple. There was a bit of a corduroy ripple, Tom. And just at the edge of the ripple, I seen right enough. In my mind, I thought they were coarse fish. They were very, I thought they were coarse fish. But Bobby was right, as he often is. Because I hooked one about 2.5 pounds. Thought, it's a trout. Got it in, released it. And about 4 or 5 casts after, I was stopped. Now, I remember taking the two dries off, and on the way down, because we were thinking, we'll just give this an hour and then into the pub, and taking the 2 dries off and tying these 2 buzzery type things on, wee shaggy buzzy thing, nothing but poxy or nothing. And it was 8 pound Maxima I was fishing, Maxima Green, and this thing stopped me, and it just put its head up and shook. And the rod done a couple of big dirks and a crack, and the fly line came back and hit the boat. It was at some distance, like the fly line came back and hit the boat. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted at times.
Yeah, and you're probably more reliant on conditions. All right,
You are, of course.
Rivers can go and flood and everything, but aside from that, no, you really are reliant way more than you are, say, in rivers.
I think that's the hardest on us, like, it's very enjoyable, of course, and it's very beautiful.
And what's more, it's like it's not the type of fishing you do to get away from people, because there's a lot more social.
There's a lot of social there. Like we went.
Definitely.
I think. Well, we were there. I don't know if it was there 3 or 4 days, but one of the days anyway, we pulled on. All of us pulled on the island for lunch. We lit a fire, and you know yourself. Next thing there was bottles of wine coming out, and steaks and pans, and there was and then the fire was getting bigger and bigger. We never moved. We didn't come off I think we went on the island about 1:30. We didn't come off at about 8:30.
Lovely. And that's fine.
And it was a great day. It was a great day.
Exactly. It was a great day.
It was a great day.
Yeah.
Not a fish landed. Maybe somebody got one later, but it was a great day. And then people were saying, when you go into the hotel or the pub, people are saying, "How many fish did you get?" We're all saying none. We're all happy. We're all saying something wrong with us. I've had many a good day sitting on a walk. You meet some great characters too, Tom.
Where's your favourite place to fish?
It's a very hard question, that, because I don't know. Like, if I love fishing, I love fishing the lochs. I love fishing the lochs. Like, and I love carp. I think carp's very pretty. I don't get down to it often enough because it's a good distance in me. I like Lough Neagh, but I don't know. I still enjoy my rivers, so I don't know. If somebody says to me, could I choose between rivers and lochs, I don't know if I would. You know, I don't know. I don't know. You know, very, very difficult. I don't know. I don't know where my favourite place is. I don't know. If I had like a couple of days to live and maybe only fish a couple of places, I don't know. I'd probably just fish my wee local. I've fished my wee local job.
Could we try 3 places?
Aye, 3 places. All right. I would fish. I would fish Sheelan. I would fish Sheelan because I love it.
Okay, we've Sheelan.
And,
Yeah.
And I still like a 6 mile river. It has to be in, like, you know, because it's dead local and it's good trout fishing. Don't know, Tom. Don't know. Carl. Argentina.
Well, I was going to say, outside of Ireland, then would it be? Where would you pick?
I've been very lucky in some ways because of what I was working in. I didn't pay for these trips. I was getting invited to do trips, and I've been very lucky. I've fished in Canada a lot. I've fished in Norway a lot. I fished in Argentina not a lot, but I was lucky to be invited down once and fish it. It was very, very beautiful. And I have a very memorable fish there. But I love Norway. There's a river called the Glomma. Now this isn't for salmon or trout. It's for trout as well, but it's for grayling. And I love the Glomma. It's a spectacular river. It's just crystal clear. You can see the fish coming up to take your fly. And it's in a beautiful mountain gorge, and it's just perfect. It just looks. Big massive run comes into this big pool, and it's just a feeding frenzy because it's just bringing all the food to all these fish, and it's a stunning place. So the Glomma in Norway would definitely be there, and the Trysil in Norway they're very close to my heart. Them 2 rivers because I worked on them. With a guy called Espen for about 15 years, sure enough. So just a few weeks at a time every year, you know. But and we're not doing that at the minute because Espen is doing something with the Russians. I don't know what's happening, but anyway.
That's another story.
That's for another podcast.
Another story.
Yeah, so there's a few there. Listen, Stevie, there's so much more. And we have forewarned you. We ask everybody who comes on the show, what's your most memorable fish on the fly?
I was staying in this lodge called Despedidia Lodge, and there was like a bar in it with all these pictures of these guys, a lot of famous guys holding up big fish, you know, like Alex Ferguson and people like that, you know. And it was all £20 plus sea trout, you know. And on the last day of the fishing, it was a really windy day, as it often is down there, I believe, you know. It's Lough Neagh. But I remember I was fishing a double hander for a long time because it's easier just to fish the double hander, you know. And I remember, I was working with Hardy's at the time, and I had a couple of rods over, and it was a 9'8" or something. I picked this up anyway, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought I'd seen a big boulder, you know, where you see a boulder going over water, but then there's no boulders, it's just gravel. And then I realised it was a fish, and I remember throwing over this thing, and I mended the line a couple of times, and the line just straightened, and this thing hit the air, and he was about £27. And I remember getting him into a net and thinking, my God, the size of this thing, you know. Its adipose thumb was bigger than my thumb, you know. It was a massive, massive fish. So I always remember that fish. But I do remember my first fish I caught on a dry fly too, which was only a wee small thing, you know.
Where was that?
That was in my local river, and my dad my dad would have cleared off and let me fly fish alone back in the days. And I remember I was fishing a wee badger quill, and a trout came up and ate it, and I lifted my rod and fell backwards, and it was laying in the river, and fancy trailed this wee trout out, like, you know, in them days you killed them and eat them, but I remember that wee trout too, like. And I remember a few fish. There's a lot of fish I remember. I remember quite a few that got away, you know, like that fish in Sheelan. That's probably put about £4 on the day, that fish. you know. But I remember a few fish. But that one in Argentina was certainly one that'll always be in my memory because I don't think I'll ever be back there again as well. And it'll always be in my memory. But I had some great fish. I was very, very
I
lucky to
remember
fish
you sending me the
a
picture
lot
of
of
that fish.
places.
You did.
Aye,
You
it was a
emailed
great
me. I think
fish.
you were still out there. You sent the picture of the fish.
Aye,
Yeah,
it was a
beautiful.
it was it was it's a beautiful it's a big fish. Like, its head's huge, you know. But I played it for a long, long time on a single-handed rod, and then this crazy Argentinian gilly stuck a net under it, and it's funny. Argentina was a funny place. Out there, all of a sudden there was a beaver turned up, and there was no trees. You know what I mean? It was a funny place. The culture
Maybe
was very
he's
different.
just an
I did like
efficient
them.
beaver.
Very efficient. Very efficient.
Well, Stevie, it's been brilliant chatting to you. My God, so many stories. Like you said, it's a lifetime involved in fly fishing, from the industry, the trade, guiding, instructing, the fly fair. And actually, just if people, I know it's not on for a while, but if they want to get updates or follow you to find out more, what's the web address?
Well, it's just if you just type in irishflyfair.com, it'll come up. But it's the 6th and 17th of November. That's when it is.
Well, Stevie, thanks a million for chatting to us.
It's lovely talking to you.
Our thanks to Stevie Munn for joining us on the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram. And myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.
Continuing our popular Ireland on the Fly Masterclass series, this July we're delighted to be joined by Peter Driver of Piscari-Fly, who will be giving a masterclass on the dry dropper technique for river brown trout.
At the height of the summer, there's no better way to target river trout than with the deadly combination of dry fly and nymph underneath. Whether they're taking on top or subsurface, Peter Driver will be giving invaluable tips and advice.
For river trout anglers, this will be a must-see webinar on Thursday, the 25th of July.
Tickets cost €10 and go to www.irelandonthefly.com/masterclass to register today.